I have gone live. So if you're not on, well, we can just keep it going as we've got it right now. I'm going to get myself muted and you guys can roll pretty much anytime you want. I'll let you do your own countdown.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Galen.
Thanks.
All righty, and welcome back into the Zoom room. Happy, what is it, Wednesday now? We're losing track of the days, but happy Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. We are on NFL Draft Eve, and that is what today's show is all about. We're breaking down all things NFL Draft as it starts tomorrow. Sam Niederman, joined by Austin Render. Austin, great to see you, my friend. We've got a great stacked lineup in our show today. Jack Grossman, Dylan Wallace, Spencer Aber, Jordan Gould, all coming along for the ride. This is going to be fun to actually get some sort of live sporting event, I guess, with the draft going on tomorrow night.
I've never been a huge draft guy, but this is the most anticipated draft, I think, in my memory, because there is nothing else. It is probably something that people can gamble on. It's something that people can watch live, and that's enough at this point for people to be excited. It's just something that's happening that you don't know what's going to happen. Everything we've watched has been reruns. We're like, okay, I know IU wins this or whatever, but now we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, and that's the fun part.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty different draft. It's a virtual draft. Remote format. So it was originally scheduled to take place in Las Vegas, but that got axed with the current coronavirus pandemic. Now Commissioner Roger Goodell is going to be announcing picks from his home in New York. Teams are going to register them in virtually, so we'll see how that all plays out. Apparently there were some technical snafus when they went with a little test run earlier. So we'll see how that goes, but a lot to get to with this draft. I think the one thing that kind of catches everybody's eye, Austin, are the quarterbacks at the top, with Joe Burrow potentially coming back to his hometown team with the Bengals. Tua Tagovailoa, will he go high after his injury? Will he drop down? Will the Dolphins pull the trigger on that? And then just some other really good prospects like Chase Young. What's your overall outlook on the draft before we start to get into some specific teams here?
Well, to me, it's the two storylines that interest me are the quarterbacks at the top. Obviously, we know where Burrow's going, but are the Chargers going to take a leap of faith on Justin Herbert? Are the Dolphins going to go with Tua? Who wants to take that gamble on Jordan Love? That's the type of stuff that's very interesting. And then the wide receiver market is so deep. You've got guys like Jerry Jeudy and CD Lamb, and even some guys that can drop second and third round that are going to be instant impact receivers on some of these teams that desperately need them, like the Colts that we'll talk about in a minute. And so the receiver depth in this draft is really incredible. And then the ones at the top are just, those are guys, Jerry Jeudy and CD Lamb, that are team changers. If you can get the right quarterback, a weapon like that can really change your offense.
Yeah, dude, I think these receivers this might be the best, fastest receiver class we've seen in a long time. And a lot of these guys are juniors. They're all leaving early. Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs, Justin Jefferson from LSU. I mean, if you don't get the first two guys, you could end up with a Justin Jefferson. And that's a guy who could be a huge playmaker for your offense. So I feel that on the receivers.
T. Higgins from Clemson is Mel Kiper has him going 30th. I mean, imagine if he slides a little bit more. There's plenty of depth in this draft. I mean, if you're getting a receiver from Clemson with the 30th pick, I think you're in pretty good hands.
Yeah, you forget about Higgins too, how big of a playmaker he was for the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot coming up in today's show. We're going to break down how this draft goes virtually with Jordan Gould. It's primetime at ABC tomorrow at the first round. Jack Grossman's going to come on in about 5 minutes to give us his top college prospects. Spencer Aber's talking Jets. Dylan Wallace is talking about the monsters of the Midway, the Bears, later on today. But, Austin, we first got to start with our hometown Indianapolis Colts, who don't have much in their draft stock right now, only 7 total picks, and their first one doesn't come until the second round. Chris Ballard has been busy this offseason with trades, free agent signings. Most notably, Phillip Rivers comes in on a 1-year deal to be the veteran quarterback, reuniting with Frank Reich. And then you get the big trade dealing off the first-round pick for DeForest Buckner, the all-pro defensive tackle from San Francisco. Xavier Rhodes comes into the secondary as well. Why don't we start with Rivers? That's a huge move. What did you think of Phillip Rivers now, who's going to be playing the Colts blue?
How much time do we have? I don't know. I trust in what Chris Ballard is doing. He's built this team in the way that I think Colts fans appreciate. He's getting guys on the offensive and defensive lines. He's building from the ground up. So I trust that they saw something. I know Frank Reich was heavily involved in this. He wanted Phillip Rivers. I guess when you really dive into the stats, it probably is a better option than Jacoby Brissett. I just don't know how much better it is. And to me, it is maybe just them pushing off a permanent quarterback decision another year. And they didn't want to make that this year, which, I mean, they didn't really have the options. You have a 13th round pick, so maybe you could get Jordan Love. And then you got Jacoby Brissett, maybe you could go get Phillip Rivers or Tom Brady. And those were your options. So they decided, let's just grab a safety net almost in Phillip Rivers because he's going to get you some wins and he's going to be a reliable quarterback. And we'll figure out the future quarterback next year. So to me, it's just kind of, it's a 1-year rental. We'll see how he goes, but I don't think he has much of a future in Indy beyond 2020. And then I guess you look to the draft, maybe you look to a younger free agent and you go from there.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling too hot about the move from the beginning too, because as a Colts fan myself, Phillip Rivers was a Colts killer. Yep. The Chargers were Colts killers when Rivers was kind of in his heyday back with Norv Turner in the late 2000s. I mean, I think back to that Darren Sproles wild card game in 2008. Oh yeah, nightmares, and not even Rivers, but Billy Volek in 2007 coming into the Dome and running wild with Michael Turner and upsetting the Colts the year after they won the Super Bowl. I mean, there's some haunting losses there. And this is a guy that Colts fans never really liked throughout his San Diego career against him. But I do think that the Colts actually could be pretty good with him, as crazy as that sounds. He's running out of gas. Now, I think he doesn't have much left in the tank, but I think Ballard's playing this right in terms of the rental, building around him with the offensive line that they have, with some of the bolstering they've done on defense. I think it actually could work out pretty decent and see it playing out as a decent Colts year with a competitive team.
Well, here's how I think it works. First off, the biggest move in the offseason that's not talked about is getting Anthony Costanzo back. I think that was huge. He was thinking about retiring. Colts get him back, and that offensive line is ready to go. You got Ryan Kelly, you got Quentin Nelson. They are stacked and ready. The receivers that the Colts have, you could say a healthy TY, but for the most part, those receivers are not deep threats. They're not going to burn corners down the field. They are good route runners, and that's where Jacoby would miss some of those good routes, but he'd miss the throw. Phillip Rivers is going to be a better short intermediate guy. He's going to hit those guys on good routes. He doesn't have the deep ball anymore, but to me, that's not what this Colts offense. Yeah, the sidearm is not going to throw the ball deep downfield, but that's not what this offense is oriented around. So I think you got good route runners in TY. They just signed Marcus Johnson. You've got some other guys in like Zach Pascal. You got Jack Doyle. I mean, these are good route runners. And I think you'll kind of see a good relationship between them and Phillip Rivers.
So who do you want to see the Colts get then at that 34th pick, or do you see them trade down?
I think they're going to go and they're going to pick. I think you're going to go someone with the hands, whether that's a cornerback or a wide receiver. I think that's kind of the top needs for this team right now, because I think Zach Pascal showed you he can be a good 2 or a 3 receiver. He's never going to be a 1. And that's kind of what you saw with T.Y. Hilton out. And frankly, we have seen that you can't really depend on T.Y. Hilton right now because he's been getting hurt so much. Yep. So I think this team needs a receiver. They need somebody that could have been the Devin Funchess that was never to be. Could be the Paris Campbell that we don't know if he'll ever be. He just continues to be hurt, but just imagine a Colts lineup if they could get a 34, even if like T. Higgins drops to 34, you snag T. Higgins, You've got T.Y. Hilton, maybe Paris Campbell gets back and healthy. You got Zach Pascal and Jack Doyle, and maybe they go out and get another tight end, and you're set offensively. So would love to see them get a receiver. It's a deep draft, so I'm not worried about talent not being there at 34.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of this Michael Pittman from Southern Cal pop up for a potential later pick. Also, I'm kind of intrigued by a Chase Claypool, maybe even later on from Notre Dame, big 6'4" vertical guy. Could be a big.
Could use a deep threat. And I think Paris Campbell could be that if he's healthy, because he's got the speed, but he just was never healthy last year.
Yeah, and I think when you mentioned that protector for T.Y. Hilton, that's a big thing. They need another guy to cover him going across the middle, or if he gets hurt and if he can stay healthy, to be a compliment. So that's what we're looking at with the Colts. So we'll see what Chris Ballard decides to do. Will they trade down or keep it there on the second round of the 34th? We won't hear them tomorrow night since they traded away the pick for DeForest Buckner. Next up, we're going to bring in our favorite from Louisville, Kentucky. It's Jack Grossman who's coming on. He is going to give us all the college prospect knowledge that we need to know heading into tomorrow's round one. Jack, welcome back to the Zoom room. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on. Always appreciate the time, guys. How are you all doing?
Oh, fantastic. The day's better when we get Jack Grossman on the show. So that's
you brought it up.
Matters.
Even if, Clemson T. Higgins isn't there at 34, there's so many receivers, as you guys said. I mean, hell, I'm looking at ESPN's big board right now. They have KJ Hamler as the 12th best receiver. I mean, that's how deep this draft is. A guy like KJ Hamler, you could get Lynn Bowden in like the 5th, 6th round, who was other than Joe Burrow, maybe the best SEC offensive player in that conference last year.
Yeah, they may not need one at 34 because there's so many. They could get one in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I want to tell you, if T. Higgins is there, you go ahead and take him because, T. Higgins is a stud. But, I mean, you can address other needs with that 34th pick and still get another receiver late in the draft just because there's so many receivers in this draft.
Mm-hmm. So, Jack, what do you like about this year's draft class? What are the prospects that are standing out to you heading into tomorrow night?
Well, other than the receivers, which, we've kind of hit on a bunch, I think the running back class is a little bit underrated. I mean, you got guys that aren't going to do like, the Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette top 5 picks, but guys like J.K. Dobbins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, really, really, really good running backs that are just kind of being pushed to the 2nd, 3rd round that I think could come in, be starters, and kind of continue that trend we've seen the last few years of just young running backs coming straight from college and being successful. Again, don't think it's the Ezekiel Elliott, level type of success here, but guys that I think that could have some really good, decently long, considering, running backs don't have long careers, but long for running backs, NFL careers.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift in there too from Georgia. The pretty underrated class. Not many blue chippers. You talk about the quarterback class, though, Jack. I mean, this is a pretty SEC heavy quarterback class when you take into account some of the guys that have previous ties with Jacob Eason transferring from Georgia to Washington, Jalen Hurts. You even got Jake from State Farm, Jake Fromm in there as well. Let's start at the top. So Joe Burrow, you think he's going to go number 1, and you really want the Dolphins to take Tua, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, this quarterback class is you got Burrow, you got Tua, and but after that, there's not really much else to me. I mean, Justin Herbert's fine. He's going to go in the 1st round. But for me, you saw Herbert, his completion percentage, his deep ball throwing percentage, everything went down between the 2018 and 2019 season. So he kind of regressed a little bit for me. Jordan Love's a guy that's a little bit unproven out of Utah State. He's got the big arm, kind of a Josh Allen type mold, who's with Buffalo right now, which, the jury's still out on him just 2 years into his career. But you got Joe Burrow, who's going to go number 1 in all likelihood, that everyone just has kind of penciled in, and I don't see any reason why that won't be the case come tomorrow night. But for me, if I'm just taking injuries out of it, like if this was Madden, you just turn the injury slider off, I would have Tua ahead of Burrow for a couple of reasons. And one, I mean, Joe Burrow put together arguably the best college football season ever. There's no arguing that. He's fantastic. But you've seen Tua, when he's healthy, be the best player in the sport for 2 years, plus the national championship game his freshman year. So 2+ seasons, I think Tua's been arguably the best player in college football consistently. And he's a guy that can do anything you need from a quarterback. He's mobile, he can run some, has the big arm, is extremely accurate. I've always loved watching Tua, and just the issue is, obviously, can he stay healthy? Which the answer has been a resounding no during his time at Alabama, whether it be the wrist or the hip or the ankle. There's always something bothering him. It's like an exploded version of Michael Penix at Indiana. But if Tua can figure out a way to stay healthy, go to a team like, Miami, who's basically been tanking for him for 3 years now, and sit under Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year or two, something that is completely lost among the NFL, other than some guys named Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson who seem to benefit from sitting for a little while. And if nothing else, other than just the benefits of learning the system, learning the NFL and all that stuff, just give him some time to get healthy without taking a hit from, an NFL lineman. I think would be really beneficial to him. Let him build his body up some time, sitting behind Ryan Fitzpatrick, a grizzled veteran. And I think Tua has a chance to really be the best player to come out of the draft, other than, probably Chase Young.
Do you have any concerns with the lefty aspect of it? There hasn't been a lefty quarterback really that's been successful since, I don't know, Steve Young. Any concerns with that?
Not too much. I think if you're good enough, it'll kind of rub itself off. I mean, and you do have the examples of, Steve Young, who is one of the best NFL quarterbacks of all time. Michael Vick was a lefty, even though he was very much different than the typical quarterback back then. But for me, that doesn't bother me too much. It does flip a few things around, but I think if Tua can stay healthy, he's good enough to overcome that.
Now, the Chargers, a lot of people have them taking Herbert with the 3rd pick. Do you think that's more of a fit to Los Angeles with their team personnel? Or if you're Los Angeles, are you saying, well, Tua is going to be available at 3, why would we not take him?
Yeah, that's what I would think. But, I'm not the one that's going to be in these virtual war rooms on Thursday night. But for me, Justin Herbert, as I said, his numbers kind of went down between 2018 and 2019. He's not the most mobile guy in the world. You could say that especially about Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason farther down the board as well. Well, especially those latter two, it kind of goes against what the modern NFL is going towards, kind of the more dual threat type of passer. I could see the Chargers taking Herbert, but for me, it seems more like a reach to them kind of the syndrome we see teams fall under of just feeling the need to take a quarterback, where a lot of times, like I think the Redskins are a good example of a team this year. If they go ahead and take Chase Young, I mean, is Dwayne Haskins necessarily the answer for them at quarterback? Probably not. But if you're not going to take Tua and risk it on that injury, you might as well just take the best player available and Chase Young and have what some people, or a lot of people rather, are touting as a future Hall of Famer edge rusher, which is a really vital position in modern football. So for me, the Chargers need to focus more on picking the best player, because they have a lot of different needs, instead of trying to pigeonhole Herbert into that quarterback spot. Whereas I'm not a huge Justin Herbert fan, and I guess is the way to put it.
Okay, how about Chase Young, Jack? Is he better than the Bosa's? Will he be better than the Bosa's once he gets his name called?
Man, that's a tough thing to be better than the Bosa's, but that's Ohio State for you, man. I mean, when you think of O linemen, you think of Iowa, Wisconsin. When you think of edge rushers, you think of Ohio State. They've had such a long line of guys, just a factory out of Columbus, and it wouldn't shock me if he was better than the Bosa's. Just, looking off of college career and college statistics, if Chase Young doesn't get suspended for those, 2 games, he probably breaks every sack record in the books at Ohio State in the Big Ten, quite possibly the NCAA for a single season. So he's a guy that's just an absolute monster out there. And I'd say he could be better than the Bosa's, even though the Bosa's are really good. I think he's very much, I think he's the most hyped edge rusher since Jadeveon Clowney to come out of the draft. And obviously Clowney's been a really good player as well. I love Chase Young, man. He's really, really just dominant.
Do you have someone it doesn't matter the position, is there a hidden gem in this draft that maybe nobody's talking about that somebody could steal in the first round?
First round, I'm not sure, but I love, again, going back to the running backs, J.K. Dobbins. And saying with Ohio State on it, ironically, but I think J.K. Dobbins is a guy that is just the complete package at running back. He's a strong, powerful runner. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He has some speed in the open field. He has everything that you would want from a running back. And I'm honestly surprised that he's kind of rejected being a second, third round guy, because I really think that he could be a really good back that someone can steal in the second round and be a starter right away.
Hey, never forget J.K. Dobbins' collegiate debut in Bloomington on opening night, college football.
Sam, we all want to forget about that. We can't forget about that.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I'll never forget watching it down in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Austin brought up Paris Campbell. But he had an impact on that game also. But that was honestly such a cool atmosphere and experience. Just, the one time Memorial Stadium sold out while
it was a ball game at halftime.
Yeah. It was a ball game in the third quarter.
It was a fake ball game, but a ball game nonetheless.
It was an Indiana ball game.
All Urban Meyer had to do was put a safety back, and Richard Lego had nothing left with Simi Cobbs. So
yeah, that was fun for the first 2.5 quarters there, just throwing jump balls for Sidney Cobbs and Donovan Hale. Whoever chanted overrated in the student section.
Yep. They got it.
Yeah,
not a good move. Never a good one. Well, Jack, thanks for coming on, my friend. Always good to see you. Appreciate your time here in the Zoom room.
I always love doing it, guys. Stay safe.
Awesome. All right, that's Jack Grossman reporting from Louisville. Next guest, he's coming down from the banks of the Ohio too. It's Jordan Gould who checks in. Jordan, good to see you, my man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Looks like my video is still okay. Here we go.
There we go.
There he is.
He's outside.
I am doing well. I am. I moved
change of
outside.
scenery.
I went outside and I'll stand up. I put on the brown sweatshirt.
Oh,
as you
yeah.
can see here.
There it is.
Do you have any idea of what we're talking about?
So Jordan's repping the Brownies today. Why don't we start there, my friend? Cleveland 7-9 last year. They got a chance to build around Baker Mayfield. And what are you looking for this team with all the debacles they've been through to go with in the draft here?
Yeah, it's nice for a change that they really don't have to address the quarterback issue with their first pick. Last year, didn't have a first-round pick, having two back a couple years ago when they got Denzel Ward with the fourth pick, Baker Mayfield with the first pick. So it'll be interesting to see what they'll do. To me, it's a no-brainer. If they don't trade down, they've been talking about trading. They have the 10th overall pick. They really got to address the left tackle. Baker Mayfield sacked 40 times last year, is running for his life. I think has a lot to do with why he struggled in his sophomore campaign in the NFL compared to his first year when he broke the record for pass touchdowns by a rookie. But I think that they have to address the tackle in some way. They went ahead, got Jack Conklin, who was really great for Tennessee last year out of Michigan State. So it'll be interesting to see what they'll do with the tackle if they don't decide to move down. You got options like Tristan Wirfs, who I've seen has just had a lot of talk. Mekhi Becton, who's the heaviest guy in the out of all the prospects. I think he's about 340, and he ran a 5.1 40-yard dash. You kidding me? I mean, that's insane. And then, you have a guy like Ezra Cleveland, who has he'd be a perfect name out of Boise State for this Browns. There's the tackle position. You got Andrew Thomas, another guy out of Georgia, who a lot of people believe he can plug and play him right away. So there's a lot of good tackles, and I think they'll all fall within maybe anywhere from like 8 to 15. I think you could see 4, maybe 5 tackles go off the board.
Yeah, they need that successor to Joe Thomas, who's been there forever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they definitely, it's too bad they couldn't get him to the playoffs and all those years he was there and all the Pro Bowls, the consecutive starts. Kind of a shame, but maybe they'll do him some justice this year. But should be a fun division. I mean, think about it. You have Baltimore and the reigning MVP and Lamar Jackson. They'll be back. Big Ben will be healthy again in Pittsburgh, and their defense with Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt. And then you got Cincinnati, which will actually be intriguing as well, should they grab Joe Burrow with the first pick. So AFC North will be a fun division next year.
Yeah, well, I think that would be a good little battle there with the young quarterbacks with Jackson, Baker, and potentially Burrow too. I think Big Ben's out of gas, though. I think he should have retired when he was actually contemplating it. Could be the end for the Steelers, but we'll see.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I mean, I don't know how much, if you could really ride a Mason Rudolph again, or
No, the answer
whatever
is no.
the other, or Hodge, like Duck Hodges,
Duck.
best nickname in college in NFL last year.
Yeah, it seems like that was so long ago since we've been without sports. But why don't we talk a little bit about some of the changes with this draft, Jordan? It's all virtual. It will be on ABC in prime time, which you're particularly interested in. What's your outlook on the mechanics of this draft with it not being in Radio City Music Hall or Jerry World or Nashville like it was before?
Well, the NFL, I think they pride themselves on they're a year-round sport, right? I mean, the calendar is year-round. When the season ends in February after the Super Bowl, it doesn't really end because then you have free agency talk, and then right around April, well, before that, you have the combine as well in Indianapolis, and then that leads all the way up to the NFL draft in sometime in April, sometimes beginning of May, whatever it is. And then you go into OTAs. So it's a year-round calendar. And I think, especially right now with the world of sports at a halt, this will definitely increase ratings. I mean, we saw it. I mean, people were just hungry for anything. And you got the Jordan documentary, the ESPN's highest ratings for any documentary in their history. No really surprise there. I think I saw 6.1 million viewers, which is crazy. I think the NFL draft will also, the numbers will be astronomical, especially with the ratings. Just because there's, I don't know, you put on prime time, you put on national television and ABC. You mentioned at the top of this episode, Sam, that they did have some issues virtually. I think on Monday when they went through a practice run with the Bengals of all teams. I mean, everyone knows what they're doing. And of course, that's the pick you freeze on. Because, I mean, the draft really starts at pick number 3. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, Burrow and Young seem to be pretty set in stone at 1 and 2. But yeah, a virtual draft will be interesting. The NFL's never done it. It'll be interesting to see how you usually get the commissioner boos. I know that I saw Bud Light's trying to do some partnership with the booing the commissioner. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that gets done. But no, I think this would be an exciting event. I'm curious to see. Usually they do with all the players that usually enter attendance for the draft. I'm wondering they'll probably do some kind of Zoom interview, maybe with prospects, maybe right after they're drafted. Usually they put a hat on. How are they going to do that this year? They're just going to have hat, like, I don't know. There's so many questions.
Are they all getting 32 team hats?
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see. Usually they have the jersey, I think, ready too, and the picture with the commissioner. I don't know what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of fun and interesting dynamics to this draft this year. So
I want those booze to work. I know Bud Light trying to get people, if you pay for the booze, it goes to a charity to help out with COVID. And that would be really interesting if the draft just continually has manufactured booze in it. That would be very interesting. What do you think about the whole broadcast side of things? I mean, the ABC's got to cover it. You're covering something where you're all in. I don't know. Does that change anything that maybe ABC's doing on their side?
Yeah, maybe there's a lot of people involved, and typically in live TV, when everyone's together, it's typically easier. You have a set, but since everyone's going to be apart and doing it from maybe the comfort of their homes or just in separation, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic will work over, basically a Zoom screen. I mean, the draft is being conducted over Zoom. So there's a lot of moving parts involved, especially when, you're not working in close proximity to each other. So that's why I think these rehearsals are so essential for these guys to get it done. Just because, I mean, once you're live, granted, it's there could be technical difficulties, but that's why they're trying to work through them now to make sure it runs as smooth as possible come tomorrow night.
Jordan, before we get you onto the next segment, my friend, any wish list for you? Any prospect or player that if your Browns could get him, or just an underrated player that you think, hey, I think this guy will have a good career, that you're on the lookout for this weekend when they get their name called?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. If somehow Isaiah Simmons snuck or like dropped down the board to 10, I don't know how. I think he'll be gone before then. The Giants could really use him. He's the best linebacker in this draft class, and they really have a hole there with Joe Schobert departing. He signed a deal with Jacksonville, so they're a little slim on the linebacker depth chart. So a guy like Isaiah Simmons would be a really good pick. I look at a guy, not necessarily maybe a need, but the best defensive tackle in this draft, Derek Brown. I mean, he's a big guy at Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll buoy some guys in the NFL. He's a fun guy. So I don't know. There's a couple prospects there, but to me, it seems that the pick is an offensive tackle in some fashion. Whether they draft one or maybe they trade, there's been talks with the Redskins about trading for Trent Williams, so you get a veteran there who you could play right away. Know he's a proven guy. Yeah. So I mean, I like Isaiah Simmons. If somehow he fell to 10, don't know how that would happen, but man, he would be kind of a fun guy to watch in the middle of that defense for Cleveland in the dog pound next year.
Yeah, he'd be back in the orange. He had an awesome national championship game too, which was obviously overshadowed by LSU just throwing bombs all over the place. But that kid's a gamer. He'll have a good career for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Jordan. Well, thanks for joining us. Enjoy that nice day down there in Kentucky, and go Brownies, my man. I hope it all works out for them come tomorrow night.
Of course, yeah. Going for the Browns here, rooting for them, and hopefully they can't mess this draft up, even though they've done that so many times.
I love it. That's Jordan Gould back
Take
in
care, guys.
Louisville again. Thanks, Jordan. Oh, what do you think, Austin? You think the Browns are gonna end up like Kevin Stefanski is now with this team? Remember that debacle coaching search? Will this team finally find a way to turn it around? And does it start tomorrow night?
I forgot who their coach even was. I mean, Kevin Stefanski, that's who it is? Wow, that's news to me, Sam. That's how little I honestly, living in the Midwest, I learned to drown out the Browns hype last year because I thought it was unnecessary and ridiculous, and it proved to be I was right. I mean, they were bad, and I don't know. It's fun talking to a Browns fan because everything's just so different. They're like, I have this wish list, but I know we're not going to get any of it because we're the Browns. So it's interesting to talk to them, and I hope they can start becoming competitive because, like Jordan said, that's going to be a really fun division. If Joe Burrow could do something with the Bengals and the Browns can continue to be competitive, and maybe Big Ben goes on a last-minute circus or something, who knows? But they've got a good enough defense there in Pittsburgh to keep them around. So that'll be a fun division.
Yeah, Stefanski was an offensive coordinator for the Vikings. That's where he came.
That's
from.
right.
That whole drown out thing. But
there's so much has happened since the head coaching carousel. So I got nothing.
Oh, I feel you, man. I had to double take on it too. Let's stick in the Midwest. Next team up, representing them from the region, all the way in Crown Point. Here he is, Dylan Wallace, with the Roy shirt as well. Here to talk about the Chicago Bears. How are you doing?
I'm good. Don't worry, I'm 22, so the shirt is appropriate. And the snow has finally gone away up here near the city, so that's good because the sun is out. So it's good.
Love it, man. Glad that you're here. You got the Devin Hester pennant, signifying better days for the Bears in a simpler time for this team who doesn't have a first-round pick this year. So what's your wish list for them as they approach the draft coming this weekend?
Well, I wish they could get a quarterback, but we all know that is not going to happen, and I'm just going to have to ride out another year hoping that good old St. Nick can put on some magic like he did for the Eagles in 2018. So yeah, or 2017, I think. But yeah, so as you mentioned, no first round pick. We traded that away when we got Khalil Mack. So I cannot be that disappointed because that's been a tremendous addition for that defense. But on the defensive side, their secondary kind of took a hit this offseason. Clinton Dix left. We only had him for a year. And then they also got rid of Prince Amukamara, who's a really good cornerback. So that's where my eyes go to first. They need another cornerback to line up on the other side of Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller is obviously really good, 2-time Pro Bowler. You got Eddie Jackson in the safety position, so we need another cornerback. In the second round, Damon Arnett from Ohio State, I was able to see him play when they came to Bloomington earlier in the fall.
Had that pick six.
Yeah, exactly. So, that'd be a good addition. AJ Terrell from Clemson. Clemson's always had some pretty good corners. I think he had a pretty good year. So those are kind of the two guys that are probably going to be available in the second round. And if the Bears can get one of them, that's where I look to first in the cornerback position. They also need some offensive linemen because the offensive line was pretty bad last year. Kyle Long retired. He was obviously really good, and he kind of unceremoniously retired out of nowhere. He had a lot of injuries problems, and he kind of took it to the shelf. So we need an offensive lineman, especially since, if Nick Foles does take the starting job over Mitchell Trubisky, which hopefully happens, Foles is not as mobile as Trubisky is. Trubisky can move around out of the pocket and, take off on runs. Not really what Foles does. So we need some more protection. And the line was really bad last year, so they need to look for somebody on the offensive line as well.
It's a long list there, Dylan. Where do you see that quarterback battle going? I mean, Bears bring in Nick Foles. Mitch Trubisky is still kind of the guy there. They still trust in him. They said it's an open QB battle. Would you rather see Nick Foles, or do you like that mobility that Trubisky brings?
I like the mobility that he brings, but after last season, I cannot get on board with him anymore. And it's one of those like pride things I think Ryan Pace has, because they literally traded up to the second overall pick to take this guy, and they're trying so hard to like not admit they were wrong, and they're trying to keep that inch of, hey, there's still a chance. But after this past season, I mean, they led the league in 3 and outs. It was horrible. The offense was so bad. I'm off the Trubisky train. I hope Nick Foles does take his spot. And the thing with Nick Foles is after that Super Bowl run with the Eagles, the very next year, he was about to lose to Trubisky and the Bears in the playoffs if it wasn't for Cody Parkey hitting the crossbar and the side of a field goal post. And then the year after that, he lost his starting job in Jacksonville to Gardner Minshew. So it's sort of like, was this the guy that we really wanted to go get? I was hoping for a Teddy Bridgewater, or heck, even Cam Newton. I know his injury problems, but I was hoping for one of those two guys. But the more I've kind of thought about it, the more I'm okay with it, because I hope Nick Foles can come in and do something with that offense. A receiver is another thing I kind of want them to go after. The Bears, as bad as the quarterback situation has been in Chicago for ever, the whole franchise, the receivers have never been that great. You had Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey a little bit in 20.
I forgot Brandon Marshall was with them for a second.
Yeah,
Jay Cutler.
He didn't really do much, but yeah, they had him and Alshon Jeffrey for a little bit. But
remember
never
Musa
really
Muhammad?
Yeah, he was awesome. Earl Bennett was okay at times. They never really had too many great receivers. You got Allen Robinson now, who's really good. They lost Taylor Gabriel in the offseason. Anthony Miller took a few steps in the right direction last season. So, I know Austin was talking about earlier, the receiving in this draft is stacked. Of course, the Bears, they have a second round pick, and then they don't pick again till like the 5th round. So it's going to be, hopefully they can find a diamond in the rough in the receiving category as well.
Never forget Johnny Knox. Remember him?
Man, he was going to be so good, and then that gruesome injury happened. It was disappointing.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about Pagano on defense? You mentioned losing Amukamara and Clinton Dix. This is a guy that prides himself on the secondary, going back to when he was a D coordinator and bringing up some guys like Ed Reed in Baltimore. Do you think that a Damon Arnett could be that next sort of ball hawk for him, or somebody? Where do you think the state of this Bears defense is to getting it back to where we've seen it? We know you got Khalil Mack up front, but how about at the back end?
Yeah, Khalil Mack. They also added Quinn Buckner up front to go on the opposite side of Khalil Mack. So hopefully the pass rush improves for this season. Pagano. That was last season was obviously Pagano's first season as the defensive coordinator. Before that, they had Vic Fangio, who was their defense in 2018 was incredible. They went 12-4. The defense was great. That was Mack's first year. Last year, kind of took a step back, but I try not to think that they've regressed that much because, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, the offense led the league in 3-and-outs. And when your defense keeps coming back onto the field that much and has no rest, it's going to be hard to be as dominant as you were a year before because you're not getting any rest and the other team keeps getting the ball and eventually they're going to get the ball down the field and find some openings. So I still have a lot of hope for this defense. I like what Pagano's doing. If we get Arnett, if we get him there, the Bears don't play. I mean, they like to do a lot of zone coverage, not too much man to man. So I mean, he can kind of see what he can do in that system. So I'm hopeful that they can find a good cornerback to go opposite side of Kyle Fuller and really be a lot better because obviously up front they're pretty solid, but they really need to improve that secondary to make that defense complete package. Back to the monsters in midway, I guess. Maybe we'll see.
Hope. That's the resounding message I keep getting. There's hope. That you need to keep the hope alive for the Bears.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's been so tough, man. It's every year there's seems to be like they went 12-4 in 2018, and this upcoming season there was so much hope, and then they were horrible and they went 8-8 and they missed the playoffs, and it's just been tough. It's been like that for a while. They look like they can be good, and then they aren't, and they make terrible moves, bad draft picks like the Trubisky one. So yeah, we'll see. I am hopeful for this season, though. I am. Obviously the division has ramped up a little bit. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, they just got rid of Diggs, which is nice, but obviously Rodgers and the Packers is always a tough thing to battle. They might be closing. Hopefully, the career is closing there for Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers to be just great for me because he has destroyed the Bears for as long as I can remember.
And is there anyone more unpredictable than the Detroit Lions? I mean, they could beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody. So
yeah, it's crazy, man. The Lions start out every season like 4-1, and you're like, wow, Detroit, and then they finish at like 5-11. You're like, man, what happened to them? This is how it's been with Detroit. But Stafford's not terrible, he's been decent. Their
defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Any final thoughts, Dylan, before we send you off on the draft in general? What are you looking for? Are you excited in general? A bold prediction come tomorrow night with how this is all going to play out for you.
I'm very excited for the draft. I watched the WNBA draft a week from today. So it was, I saw, what they did was, I know you guys talk about the hats and the jerseys. So the commissioner would kind of like say, oh, with the first pick, the New York Liberty select Sabrina Ionescu, and then she would like hold the jersey herself. And then they'd cut the Sabrina in her home, and they would do like a short, quick interview. And that was kind of how it went for most of the draft. So I expect the NFL will probably do something similar to that. And they kind of have two like panelists kind of like orchestrating everything. Like, we'll go to commissioner. Here's questions for the guys who just got picked. So I expect something like that. Jack was on earlier talking about Tua. I'm going to say his injuries slip him out of the top 5. I'm going to say that.
Ooh,
that's my bold prediction.
Dolphins don't take him.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you know what?
Like the Chargers maybe or somebody like that?
Yeah, you know what I'm so curious about is who's going to take Cam Newton. This is like a whole other discussion, but like, is he done? Like, I don't know.
Is he going to take a year off? Like, he doesn't have anything right now.
I know, right? Like all the teams that could use a quarterback right now are seeming like they're going to go after quarterbacks in the draft. So it seems like
somebody might go after him after the draft when they don't get anyone.
Yeah, maybe.
I just did a quick search on Newton, and Devin McCourty says he's not dismissing the idea of Newton to the Patriots. So you never know how that'll end up going.
Wow. Yeah, that would be something.
Yeah.
Gronk's back. How about that?
Yeah, big news yesterday. Going down to visit TB12 in Tampa. Unbelievable.
Pat McAfee said he's going to go get some kicks off in his backyard, see if he can still do it.
I honestly thought Gronk was going to go to Hollywood. I thought he was going to be an actor for good, for sure.
But he's literally like he has like a championship in the WWE right now. That's like I saw that. Like he's like he like holds one of the belts. So I guess he went over there for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Dylan Wallace from Crown Point. Thanks for coming on, my man.
Thanks, Dylan.
Of course. See you guys.
Awesome. That's Dylan Wallace checking in on the Bears. Got a lot of hope, but the Bears always screw things up, Austin. I mean, we know that. We beat them in the Super Bowl, for gosh.
We do, and they give their fans just that little bit of hope in 2018, and now that hope is gone, I think. But speaking of hope, there's none of that for our next guest, Sam.
Yeah, he is representing Gang Green, our resident New Yorker. There he is, Spencer.
Spencer,
Abrams
is there any
from
hope
the
in New
bunker.
York? Is there
Probably
any
not.
hope?
Probably not, but I'm not wearing any Jet stuff because I don't want to embarrass myself. Like everyone, like it's
I
doom
love
and
it.
gloom over here. Not only we got bad football and we got the epicenter of the coronavirus. New York's not a good place to be right now.
Sam, we haven't
Well,
talked
we're
to
glad that you're
anyone.
healthy and safe.
We haven't talked to anyone with a good fan base yet. We got the Bears who are struggling. We got the Browns who are struggling. Now we got the Jets who are struggling. Man, we're on the struggle bus right now.
But these are the teams, that always make the draft. Like when it used to be a Radio City Music Hall, you'd always see the guys of the Jets unis or the Giants fans. So it's good to have you on, Spence.
No,
The
thanks for
Jets,
having me.
Of course. They went 7-9 last year. Sam Darnold's a quarterback. We know that. We got Adam Gase in the head honcho position. They're picking 11th. And I think receiver is how they're going to slant. Would that be how you see it play it out?
I do see them picking a receiver, but just not in the first round. I think the pretty obvious pick here is an offensive lineman, whether it's Wirfs out of Iowa, Wills out of Alabama, Mekhi Becton, or Andrew Thomas out of Georgia. They got to go offensive line here. This offensive line was so bad last year. Sam Darnold got beat up so much. And Judd Douglas, the new general manager, even said to Sam Darnold's parents before a preseason game last year, I'm going to do everything in my power to give your son the protection and the playmakers he needs to be successful. I mean, it has been 14 years since the Jets have picked an offensive lineman in the first round. That was back in 2006 when they picked DeBrickashaw, Ferguson, and Nick Mangold.
Yeah.
It's been that long. And they just have not addressed the offensive line under the last two general managers in Mike McCagnon and John Izek. And it's been a huge problem. And look, if it's all going to depend on if any of these four offensive tackles are even there, they might all go in the top 10. In that scenario, I would trade back because I don't want to reach for a wide receiver in this draft. There's too many good ones that you can get in the later rounds, second or third, that you can address it there. So if all the offensive linemen are gone within the first 10 picks, I'm trading back and with either like the Buccaneers at 14 or Atlanta at 16, and I'm accumulating more draft picks because this team has a ton of holes.
Even if Jerry Jeudy or maybe CeeDee Lamb is available at 11, no interest?
No, I can't because look, you can put as many playmakers as you want out there. If you can't keep Sam Darnold upright, what's it going to matter? You got to keep the guy upright. I mean, he hasn't had many drastic injuries over his first couple of years. He had the mono last year. He had a foot sprain his rookie year, but these bumps and bruises take their toll on you, as we know with you guys, with Andrew Luck. Just small little things forced him to retire. So you got to do whatever it takes to protect Sam Darnold because they can't afford to get this guy injured.
Yeah, that's a good point because I did not know that DeBrickashaw Ferguson, which I clearly remember that pick, along with Nick Mangold in 06, were the last time the Jets took an O lineman in the first round.
Look at
franchise that struggled so much like that. Yeah,
look at it this way: other than Darnold in 18, they haven't taken an offensive player since Sanchez in 2009 in the first round. It's been that long. I mean, let me give you some context on how bad these Jets drafts have been. I mean, the 2015 draft class, which was McCagnon's first draft class as general manager, that class is all gone, all off the roster. This is 5 years ago. It's not that long ago. I know the average NFL career is like only a couple of years, but 5 years, all off the roster. The 2016 draft class, only 2 players are left from that class. And then you go back to 2010 through 2015, there's only 2 players left on the roster. You got Brian Winters and Quincy Enunwa. That's this decade. I mean, I have a whole list right here of bad Jets draft picks over the last 10 years. Ja'Kai Polite. That was last year. That was the
Florida.
4th round. Out of the league. Or Darius Stewart, gone. Christian Hackenberg, gone. Devin Smith in Dallas. Calvin Pryor, gone. Jay Samaro, gone. D. Milner, gone. Geno Smith, backup quarterback for Seattle.
Punching people in the face.
Quentin Coples, gone. Stephen Hill, gone. Kyle Wilson, gone. I mean, guys, these are first, second round, third picks. You got to hit on these. And the last 10 years of the Jets drafts have been just absolutely despicable. And that's why this team is stunk.
I love it.
They haven't been to the playoffs in 10 years because of these bad drafts, and they've tried to fix it in free agency, and you just can't do it that way. That's not how it works.
I love it. Spence is on a roll. This is Spencer fired up on his Jets.
It's bad. It's bad. Look, I like Joe Douglas. I think he finally has the right mindset. I think he could be a good general manager. He's learned well under some of the greats, and Ozzie Newsome of the Baltimore Ravens, Howie Roseman of the Eagles. So I think there's a chance that Joe Douglas can fix this team. I'm not sure about Gase as the head coach. I'm very skeptical on that, but I think Douglas has a chance to put a good roster in place, and that starts with this draft tomorrow night.
That's step one. If you had to choose one of those prized offensive linemen, Wirfs or Wills out of Alabama, Thomas from Georgia, or Becton from Louisville, or anybody else, if you had to choose a perfect fit out of those guys, who would it be to protect Darnold?
It would probably be Wills out of all of them.
Agree.
I think he's the most polished guy in this draft. I don't think he's going to be there, though. I think the guy there probably could land would be Mekhi Becton. I think his stock is going to fall a little bit because of the flag drug test. I know he was only smoking a little weed. Who really cares that much? But I think that's going to scare some teams off. And I think he'll be available for them at 11. I think that's where they go. He's a big dude. I think he's like 365 pounds. That's the type of guy they need to protect Sam Darnold.
Interesting. Why don't we stay in the AFC East then? So the Jets, this could be their time to at least bolster up and go back to the offensive line. But why don't we look at the Patriots, Spencer? I'm curious to get your thoughts on what they do. Obviously, Brady's gone. What's his name? Jarrett Stidham out of Auburn. Probably not going to be the quarterback of the future for them if I had to bet. Do you see the Patriots doing anything crazy in their draft slotted at number 23 in the first round?
I think it would be a very big jump for them to even get a quarterback. That's the only problem I see. I know they need a quarterback, but I have a feeling they're going to go into this season with Stidham as their starter. You go to get into the top 10 from 23 is just, you'd have to give up a ton of draft capital. And I don't think Bill Belichick is the kind of guy who wants to do that. That's the only problem I see there. They still have some needs to fill. They could go wide receiver. They really don't have one other than Edelman. So there's some holes on this team that they need to figure out. Obviously, the quarterback is the main position. An interesting guy they could take possibly with that 23rd pick, Jordan Love. That's a guy that can come in. He's got some things that he's got to fix, but they have Brian Hoyer still on the roster. They could start him, and they could really have a battle between Stidham and Jordan Love for that second quarterback position and eventually proceed to take over for Hoyer, maybe at some point during the season.
Yesterday, the big news was Rob Gronkowski getting traded to Tampa, and now he's with Brady. What were your thoughts on that?
I knew Gronk was going to come back at some point. It was just a matter of when. I think his retirement last year came as a bit of a surprise, but you just had a feeling he was going to come back. You knew the WWE wasn't going to be his end goal and acting. Maybe he'll do that again at some point, but he still has some football left in him. I'm not surprised that he wanted to go with Brady. I think he had enough of the whole Belichick running the show there. I think he just wanted to be with his buddy and Brady. And look, that offense is scary now. You got Gronk, you got Chris Godwin, and of course you got Mike Evans. So that's a scary offense, and they're probably going to go offensive line in the first round they got to do whatever it takes to keep Brady on his feet too, because at 43 years old, one hit, his career could be over.
What are the Bills the team to beat now in the East?
Probably, I would have to say, coming off the playoff run last year, making it to the wild card game, I have my questions about Josh Allen still. I'm not a big fan of his. The accuracy problems scares the living crap out of me. He's very good with his legs, but they have a good defense, and I'm interested to see with how that offense operates now is with Stephon Diggs, because now, look, as bad as Josh Allen is, he has never had a really good wide receiver, and now he has
Mhm.
one with Diggs. So that could be a big jump for Josh Allen as he enters year number 3 in the NFL as the Bills starter.
But I'm sure the Jets and the Dolphins have to be licking their lips like, hey, there's a chance now. We don't have to play
Oh
Tom
yeah,
Brady
no,
twice a year.
both these teams are gonna have to. This is their chance. It's been 20 years, guys. That's how long the Patriots have dominated the AFC East. I mean, the only time, at least that I can remember, that the Patriots didn't win the division was when Brady was hurt, but they still went 11-5, missed
Yeah,
the playoffs
Matt
with Matt Castle.
Castle.
But the Dolphins won the division that year, so this is everyone's chance. But you can never count out Bill Belichick, no matter what. He's that good. So even though he doesn't have Brady, look, this team could win 6 games next year. I don't think they're going to win like 12, but he can find a way to get his team into the playoffs no matter what.
I think the last time the Patriots didn't win the East, I know it because I was reading this book by Pat Kerwin. It's great. Take Your Eye Off the Ball. I was reading it the other day, about a week ago, and it was 08. The Dolphins won the division when they did the Wildcat with Ronnie Brown. Remember that?
Right.
That was the year when they were able to.
And I think Pennington was the quarterback.
Yeah.
Chad Pennington.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Former Jet there.
So if you had to look at your crystal ball, Spencer, for tomorrow, the draft in general, what's a prediction you're going to make? It could be about a player. It could be about a team. Is there anything that's going to jump at us in round 1 or the entire weekend?
Look, I know there's a bunch of trade talk going on right now with, the Browns. You got the Redskins, the Lions. I just don't see all these trades that many are expecting to happen, just with the way this new setup is going to go. Unless these trades happen today, I'm a little skeptical on whether GMs want to get on the phone on draft night and try to make a trade, because you never know with what something could glitch out. The internet could go. I'm a little skeptical on these GMs trying to make a draft night trade. I just don't see as many trades as we expect.
Good call.
I have a feeling it's going to go more the way the order is for right now. That's just my feeling.
I like it. Well, Spencer, thanks for coming on, my friend. Stay healthy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Good luck with the Jets. We'll see what they do at pick number 11.
Jets. Jets.
I love it. Well, that's it for our guest rundown today here on the Zoom room. We'll wrap it up. Austin Render here, Sam Biederman here in Indiana. So what do you think, Austin? I mean, we get a full rundown. The Jets, I didn't realize they hadn't gone without an offensive lineman that long. I think it's pretty clear they got to get some protection for Darnold.
The fun part about the draft is you hear about 25 teams say we got to get protection for our quarterback. And there's not that many offensive. There are a lot of offensive linemen, but it's always fun to hear everybody come out and say they need an offensive lineman. They got to protect their quarterback. But that's as prized of a possession as a franchise quarterback is. The offensive lineman, and having a Cowboys type of offensive lineman a few years ago, having a Colts offensive line right now, that is so important. And I mean, the Chiefs have kind of gotten there now, and you got to have that offensive line in order to win Super Bowls.
What's your bold prediction for tomorrow or the weekend? Could be about a player, a team. What's going to happen?
Man, I think so. I don't know, man. I think Tua goes earlier than Miami. I don't know. I think the Lions or the Giants. The Giants probably not, because they just drafted Daniel Jones. But even the Redskins could be stupid and take a flyer on him over Chase Young. I don't know. I think I'll make my prediction that the Dolphins do not end up with him. I don't know if that means he goes earlier or later, but someone else is going to end up with Tua.
Interesting.
What about you?
I could see it. I could see that. First off, I could see Tua going somewhere non-Miami.
Put me on the spot, so that's what I came up with there.
I like it though.
What do you got?
This is what I think. We haven't mentioned him yet. Jalen Hurts out of Oklahoma, the former Bama QB, former national champion, participant, and winner.
I thought about going this direction too.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to get drafted by the New England Patriots.
Wow.
I think he'll get drafted late by New England. I think Belichick brings him in, maybe not necessarily to be a quarterback, but to develop him as some sort of hybrid receiver.
A Taysom Hill type of thing?
A Taysom Hill, yeah. Some kind of wild card they could throw into their offense. He's a Bama guy, came from Saban. Hoodie and Saban are close. He likes that kind of competitor. Hurts has an outstanding demeanor. He carries himself like a professional. I think Jalen Hurts will be a New England Patriot when the weekend is done.
What round do you think? Like 5th, 6th?
Like the 4th, I think. Something like that. I mean, I think just because I have your quarterback.
They got to draft a quarterback, so I wouldn't be shocked if they go late with that. Yeah.
I could see the Patriots getting creative. So
they're not sticking with Hoyer and Stidham, that's for sure.
Yeah. By the way, fun fact trivia. Did you know that Tom Flacco, Joe Flacco's older or younger brother, is in this draft as a quarterback out of Towson University?
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is he elite?
Is he elite? That will be the question.
There's a lot of interesting quarterbacks. Like you mentioned them, Eason, Fromm, Hurts. I mean, these are guys that were good at points in their college careers, but aren't touted as first round draft picks. So where do teams go? Maybe 3rd, 4th round with quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Easton's going to have a good career playing on Sundays. I think I've kind of maintained that since he got picked up at Georgia and then went back home to Washington. So we'll see how it goes. Well, Austin, that's it for this Zoom Room episode of the NFL Draft. Tomorrow, we will hear the Cincinnati Bengals go on the clock virtually. I tell you, it's going to be good to hear that music, man. It's going to be
good to see a live event. We haven't had too many of them. The only live events we've had are press briefings by governors and presidents. So I think we're all excited to have a live event here that we don't know what's going to happen. And then like Schefter and Rappaport are going to ruin it, and then we're going to know what happens. But that's beside the point. It'll be fun tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's on ABC. Bungles are picking first. Thank you to Spencer Aber, Dylan Wallace, Jordan Gould, and the great Jack Grossman for all joining us on the Zoom Room. Galen Clavio, our producer. Austin, any final words before we sign this baby off?
Nope. Just enjoy some live television tomorrow, folks. And remember, this is temporary. Keep your spirits up. We'll be back. Keep fighting. And we're all going to we won't even need the Zoom Room anymore shortly. Just keep your spirits up, folks. We're fighting.
I love it. Well said, my friend. Hang tough. That's Austin Render. I'm Sam Muirman. We will see you guys soon on the next episode. Friday, it's the Zoom Room. Come back, same time, same place here on YouTube. I have all the NFL draft reaction for you. Thanks to our entire team. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and happy hunting out there with the draft coming up. Think we're still on?
Yeah, I'm just dancing to the outro music right now.
I love it. It's
clearly playing.
Yeah, recording is still going. Still have
Hi. We're still here.
Still here. Thanks for your interest.
If you're still watching at this point, hey.
That was fun, man.
That was. Great guess.
Came with the fire.
He did. I didn't have any props. You guys had props. I should have just held up my Xbox controller. Yeah.
Yeah, you had the list. Yeah, that was good.
Here's
Jordan
my pen. Just
but
grabbing random things.
Nice
Talent LPM.
Good job, guys.
Hey,
Thank you,
Which
sir.
I got a question for you guys. Which college do you think will have the most first round picks when the first round's all said and done tomorrow?
Oh, that's a good.
It's always Alabama. I mean, come
yeah,
on.
I might say Ohio
Indiana.
State, but yeah,
I was going to
Indiana,
say Ohio State. They like that.
Indiana
was
might sneak in there.
Roster.
Yeah, Raekwon, Nick Westbrook, and Simon are all going to be in the first round.
What
We're
about
gonna have the
LSU?
most.
Well, let's see. I mean,
Burrow,
Burrow,
maybe
Jordan
Hilaire,
Jefferson, maybe.
Queen.
I don't think
Unsick
Edwards
Evans.
Hilaire's in the first round though.
Yeah.
Probably not. Border second. Yeah, he's good. I don't know.
How
Is
do we
this
get
the
us
Zoom
off of
room after
YouTube
dark
here?
right now?
Yeah, it is the Zoom room after dark.
Zoom room
Everybody, turn your
deleted
lights
feed.
off.
I don't know
Spencer,
what.
that was a great segment, man.
Yeah.
What?
That was a great segment,
thanks,
man. When you
yeah.
pulled out the list, that was great.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So many bad draft picks.
The Zoom room.
I
after dark.
remember that DeBrickashaw Ferguson draft. That was crazy.
Shoot, man, that was 14 years ago.
I think Ardarius Stewart gone. What a great college player.
I mean, they hit on those two picks, though. I mean, Mangold and Ferguson, Mangold's a Hall of Famer, probably. Ferguson was so durable, never got injured.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be a good draft. I'm rooting for Jeremy Chin out of Southern Illinois, Pride of Fishers, to be the first ever Fishers HSC youth player to make it and play on Sundays. That'd be pretty cool. He's ranked, I think, as the 4th best safety, which is pretty darn cool. I recovered the game-winning fumble against him in the 4th grade Super Bowl and won it.
Jordan, you don't know how to take us off YouTube?
Do we have an alive Galen Clavio?
I thought Galen was doing it. I mean,
Or
I
Paige and
didn't set it
Galen.
up.
Paige and Galen Clavio.
So I think he's in like 2 separate Zoom meetings right now.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Oh,
There he
he's
is.
here.
Hey.
Are any of you guys gonna
Are we done? Like, what's going on, guys?
It's a Zoom room after dark right now.
All right, I'll shut the stream down if you guys want to say goodbye.
Yeah.
We already did.
All righty.